Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to do another makeup tutorial. And last week when I did the video where I did my makeup pretending I was on a beach vacation and just sort of walked you through my ideal beach vacation and sort of took you on a fantasy, a lot of you appreciated that. So we're going to do that today, but at this time we are going to New York City. We're going to Manhattan, so it's going to be a very different vibe, a very different aesthetic. But before we go any further, let's take a second to grab our iced coffee or a hot coffee. Let's take a sip and let's get started. Now, full disclosure, I did have some dental work done yesterday and I still feel a little bit sore and swollen, but I'm here anyway. So I got a notification this morning from Facebook saying that 4 years ago today, my husband and I were boarding a plane to go to New York City. I'm gonna go ahead and use some older pieces of makeup that I have here. I bought this specifically at a Nordstrom's or a Barney's in New York City when I was on vacation, and I have a few other makeup pieces that I bought while on vacation, so I'm gonna go ahead and use those. This is the Dior 5 Couleurs number 806 Capital of Light. This came out 4 years ago, I guess. I'm gonna go ahead and start off by going into this bronzy gold shade. I haven't used this in a very long time, so I don't really know what the colors are like anymore. All right, that was my first time in New York City, and we had decided to get an Airbnb. You've heard of the company. They do property rentals, apartments, homes, condos, etc. This color is a little bit lighter than I remember it. So we decided to get an apartment and we decided to stay on Manhattan itself, because sometimes people say New York City, but they stay in Jersey or Brooklyn. But for this experience, we thought, let's just stay in Manhattan to get the full experience. And we decided to go in the summer because at this point, I was still in beauty school. So we went during my summer break. So it was the weeks between July and August. We went for a couple of weeks and we flew to New York. I think we went to LaGuardia, maybe, I don't remember. Anyway, we took a Uber to our Airbnb. We get the key from like a little fake rock outside and we climb the stairs into our apartment. And we turn the key into our rental apartment and we are hit with this odor of hot garbage, I think is the best way to describe it. You know when it's really, really hot out and like the humidity just like hits you like a brick wall, but it was humidity and garbage. And then we turned on the lights and we looked at our apartment that we had rented off of Airbnb and realized that it was basically a slum. Now, obviously, when we had rented this Airbnb, we looked at the photos, we looked at the reviews and the comments, and all the reviews were good. They were all positive. Everyone liked their apartment. You know, it's a bit small, that's New York real estate, and people liked it. The Airbnb claimed that there was air conditioning and Wi-Fi, two things that I think are essential when visiting any country, especially in the summer. And we walked in, we realized there was no air conditioning, obviously, and there was also no Wi-Fi. And that garbage smell was from a pizza box left on a kitchen counter. So we try to get a hold of the landlord, the owner of the apartment who was renting to us. That person was I think the technical term is schmuck, a schmo, just totally useless. Okay, now I'm gonna go into this nice dark purple shade. We contacted him, said, hey, what's going on? And also upon further inspection, I saw that the bathroom was not cleaned. I think some of the more nefarious issues with the apartment were that there were random, what appeared to be knife marks on the walls, like carved in. In the original Airbnb posting, there were photos of the furniture and just the rooms, how they looked. None of the furniture in the apartment matched the photos. Like they clearly just lied, and we were very confused because we had read the reviews. The reviews were good. They said they were fine. But then we realized when you leave a review on Airbnb, there's usually a few weeks of delay. So if you leave a review today for an apartment you're staying at, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks before it's processed and approved and uploaded onto the website. And so we quickly looked at the listing, we checked it, and we realized that in the few weeks before our booking, all the reviews went from 5-star to like 0. And everyone said that it was disgusting and dirty, and the furniture was broken, the furniture was missing, everything was upside down. So that was great. And so we immediately tried to get a hold of Airbnb, tried to speak to someone. Spoiler alert, there was no one working. I don't know. I spent a few hours on hold with no avail. My husband sent several emails, and the emails just said, oh, just contact the host or the landlord and they'll fix it for you. And that was not happening. The landlord just played dumb. Like he pretended he didn't know what we were talking about. He was like, no, like the air conditioner is right in the window. You just have to turn it on. And we're like, there's one window in this whole apartment and there's no air conditioner in said window. And same thing for the Wi-Fi. He kept saying, oh, like the Wi-Fi password is on a piece of paper on the dining room. The apartment was too small to have a dining room. And you know what I mean? Like he just kept doing that, and he would wait like several hours in between. Like we would text him saying like, hey, where's the Wi-Fi password? And then like 8 hours later, he would say, it's on the dining room table. And then we would say, there's no dining room table. And then 5 hours later, he would say, oh, check the kitchen counter. And I mean, the kitchen counter was like next to the TV, next to the bed, you know what I mean? Like it was a tiny apartment. We decided to stay at this Airbnb because I think the cancellation policy was something like you have to cancel within the first 12 hours of when you arrive. And we arrived at like 11 p.m. and then we tried to talk to the guy and then we eventually went to sleep. So I think technically we were past the point of being able to cancel and get a refund. Like if we had just decided to leave, we would not have been refunded and we would have had to pay out of pocket for a hotel last minute, which is not cheap. So we just decided to stay. And so we basically tried to spend as little time as possible in this gross, dirty slum apartment. Like it was bad. Like there were actual knife marks in the wall. It was like Shawshank, you know, someone was like carving down the days they had left in this crappy apartment. And so we basically visited every single Starbucks on Manhattan because they had Wi-Fi and air conditioning. And I do have to say, I think after like a day or two, the landlord did install an air conditioning unit in the bedroom. So we did have air conditioning. I think he did it when we were away. We were out visiting and touring around. We were staying in Harlem, which if you see a map of Manhattan and the streets are numbered and the higher up you go, like the more north you are. So we were like pretty north. I had no idea how gentrified Harlem would be, like super gentrified. If you're not familiar with the term gentrified or gentrification, that's when you have a traditionally more poor neighborhood, often people of color who live there, and then all of a sudden the yuppies, the hippies, the students move in and then jack up the prices. And yeah, I wasn't expecting Harlem to be so shishy in some areas. Like it really depended on the street you were on. But there were just like these high-rise condos with like doormen working outside. But then you had these like more rundown apartments, which is where we ended up staying. And it was full summer heat, like July, August, Manhattan, like so hot. And I have to say, I didn't realize there would also be so many little fruit stands, like fruit and vegetable vendors, like on different street corners. That was really cute. Like we would just get our produce for breakfast there, you know, in between Starbucks. And there was just like, different random little fruit vendors on like almost every street corner, which was really nice. And we had some pretty good food in New York. We also had, what's that vendor called? I think it's called like the Halal guys. They do like chicken shawarma, chicken shish taouk, like the chicken on rice type of thing. It's delicious. I think it's Lebanese. It was really good. We had that a couple of times. And of course, going to New York, going to Manhattan, you have to see shows. You have to go to Broadway. That's just like a rule. I think this makeup comes from one of the days we went to see a show because we were out and about being tourists and I was so schwitzy, so sweaty. And I was like, okay, I can't go to Broadway looking like a greasy potato. I need to do something. So we ended up stopping at a department store and I went to a Bobbi Brown counter and was like, can you please do my makeup? I will buy makeup products from you if you just like fix me up. And so that's how I ended up getting these items. And I think this palette here too. This is not Bobbi Brown, but I think it was a different trip maybe. I think I ended up going to that department store twice. That sounds like me. There's like the really big Macy's on 34th Street. I think that's where I ended up going, somewhere around there. Okay, I'm gonna go into that pink now. I'm gonna go ahead and just layer it over top of the lighter color here. If you've ever been to Manhattan, you know about Times Square, that giant tourist trap in the city. That's where you get like photos taken with like cheesy, what do you call them, mascots, like people pretending to be different superheroes or whatever. And that's also, I think, where you buy your tickets for Broadway. Like there's this thing called TKTS. That's where you buy your tickets for Broadway shows. Now, I'm going to share with you a tip that I learned, and I hope that it doesn't backfire on me. You know when you have like a favorite restaurant and then you tell everyone about it and then you can no longer get into that restaurant? I'm worried this might be that sort of thing, but I'm going to share it with you because it's very important. Okay. So when you go to TKTS, there are huge lineups, like huge, obviously. But there are two lineups. There's one for musicals and one for plays. Now, the one to go see a musical is much, much longer. The one to go see a play is much shorter. And also, if you go to TKTS and present a used ticket from last night, or there's some sort of like time period where if you go and present a ticket from a show that you've been to recently, you get to go to the shorter line as well. So what we did is we bought tickets to go see a play first. We saw the play, and then the next day we went back and got tickets in the short line again to go see a musical. You're welcome. So the play we went to see is called The Curious Incident of a Dog in the Night, or Dog in the Nighttime. It's a book. I read it maybe a decade ago. That feels old. And so we thought it'd be fun to go see this play. The premise of this book is that there's this young man, he's like a teenager, and he's autistic. And something happens to a dog in his neighborhood, and the entire book is from his perspective with someone with autism. And so his experiences, the different like sensorial experiences, like with light and sound and colors and smells and taste, like how someone with autism views the world. It's a fascinating book. And the play is honestly one of the best things I've ever seen. You kind of think like, how can they make a play out of that book? Like, how can they translate that? It's amazing. It's really, really one of the best plays I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if it's still running. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with Broadway right now with everything going on, but if you happen to have the chance to read this novel, A Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night, like if you just start typing those words, Google will find it for you. Okay, let me go ahead and just do my face makeup and I'll finish up the eyes afterwards. I got a backup or a refill of the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint in the shade Medium. I'm so excited. Look at this. Look at this. A fresh one. It's completely full of little bubbles. Let's go ahead and use it. So we saw The Curious Incident, amazing play. And then the next night, we decided to go see a musical. And this was my first time seeing Broadway. So we decided to go see Les Miserables, also known as Les Mis. Now, I had seen different movie adaptations. There was the one that came out a few years ago. I had watched like movie versions of this. I know the story. I never read the book, but I know the plot. I have to say, what an extraordinary musical. Like, I know it's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. Like, oh my goodness. Even though I knew the songs going in, I knew the story, it was what a magnificent show. Like, holy crap. I can't believe how talented some people are at singing. I mean, I can't even carry a tune. So I think for me, like as a Broadway initiation, those two shows were perfect. I mean, Les Mis, it's a classic for a reason, you know, it's amazing. I think our options were Les Mis, Phantom of the Opera, and also Waitress. I'm really happy I went with Les Mis. Maybe Phantom would have been good too. I just feel like for Broadway first time, I wanted to go with like the classics, you know? And so I did. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and use a bit of concealer. This is my Clé de Peau concealer in the shade Almond. So I definitely did some makeup shopping at like a department store downtown, like around Times Square. I think it was Times Square. I mean, it was around like 34th Street where like all the big shopping is. I don't know if that's close to like what they call downtown or Times Square. My knowledge of Manhattan geography is a bit rusty. But one day, my husband and I were just like walking around, I think doing a walking tour or something. And I happened upon a store called Ricky's. Ricky's is a makeup store, a beauty supply store, if you will, that specializes in products for curly and textured hair. And they also had a wall of nail polish. I walked in, I think angels were singing. One of the salespeople came up to me and asked me if I needed help, and I was just like, I've never been inside this store before. And she was like, that's okay, I'll give you a few minutes to like soak everything in. What an amazing store. They had everything. They had like skincare, nails, makeup, hair care, and just like every hair product was made for curly or textured hair. I was so happy. I bought so many random beauty products because they had so many different brands that I had seen online but I couldn't have access to in Canada. I bought this mask from a brand called Queen Helen. It's not for my skin type, but I bought it anyway. And they had different makeup sponges. Like they had like silicone ones that were popular at some point, so I bought those. They were terrible. Just like random makeup products, and I was like, I need everything. And so, yeah, I'm gonna go into a bit of powder. This is from Bobbi Brown. This is the Sheer Finish Pressed Powder in number 6, Warm Natural. And I ended up going to, I think 2 or 3, maybe even 4 locations of Ricky's because they had multiple locations in Manhattan and also in Brooklyn. I'm just gonna go into my Givenchy Healthy Glow Bronzer, number 3, Amber Season. And we ended up going to Brooklyn for a few days. And I have to say, I prefer Brooklyn over Manhattan. Manhattan is just, it's too much for me. It's overwhelming. It's just so busy. There's so many people. Everyone's always in a rush and like angry at the same time. Brooklyn, like I swear, as soon as you get off the train, it's like, like you just like sigh relief, you know? It's just so much more calm and relaxed and nicer. And we spent a few days there and I found a Ricky's beauty supply store in Manhattan, so I went shopping there too. And we ended up going to a place called, I think it was the Nighthawk, and it's a movie theater. It's the most hipster thing I have ever heard in my life. It's a movie theater that's in this really old school theater with like the old wooden seats, and they have like a table that like folds over like an old school auditorium or something, and they actually serve you dinner during the movie. Now that my concealer and everything is done, I'm going to go into that purple shade from before and just trace under the bottom lashes here. I'm going to go into a bit of blush. This is my Chantecaille Cheek Jelly in Vibrant. And there was another beauty store that I discovered in, I think it was in Manhattan. I think it's called Nature Republic. I believe it was in Koreatown. I think New York is a Koreatown. It was around there. And it was just similar to a face shop. Like, it's all just Korean beauty. And again, they had lots of nail polish, so I was really happy. I think that was my first time buying like sheet masks because, I don't know, I just had a hard time finding them here in Montreal. And I was just in this store that just had like nothing but sheet masks, so I bought a bunch. For the highlighter, I'm gonna go into my Dior Backstage palette. This is a 001, the first one that came out. I'm gonna go into this beautiful gold shade over here. We also went walking one day on the High Line. It's this really beautiful like trail or park just above the city. Like, you're almost like at eye level to like different, not skyscrapers, but like tall buildings. And it's really beautiful. And we also went to Central Park, of course. That is such a beautiful park because it's really remarkable. When you walk really far deep into the park, you really get a sense that you're not even in the city anymore. So it was a nice like breath of fresh air. And when we were in the park, we heard like a crowd cheering and we weren't sure what was going on. And then we realized that the band, the Flight of the Conchords, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these guys. These are two comedians slash singers. They had a TV show called The Flight of the Conchords, and they're just like a traveling comedian duo. And apparently they had a concert in the park somewhere that we could hear. We couldn't really make out what they were saying, but we could just hear like the crowd cheering. And I'm gonna go ahead and top it off with some mascara. This is a sample of the Volume Stretch de Chanel. I was going to buy myself a new mascara, and then I realized that I have like a dozen of these random little mascara samples, so I thought, why not use these up first? Okay, so I also have this Bobbi Brown eyeshadow stick that I bought on vacation as well. I'm gonna go ahead and place this on the inner corner. So I just applied some lip gloss off camera because I didn't realize that I was not filming. So this is the Dior Addict Stellar Lip Gloss number 765. I mean, overall, it was a really fun trip to New York, and every time I've spoken to a New Yorker about this Airbnb experience, they're always like, oh, you had your first like real New York experience. So I'll take that as is, I guess. I don't know if that's the truth. I don't know if that's the case for like every like genuine New York experience, but it was a fun vacation. It was super hot, super muggy. I loved the Broadway shows. I loved the makeup shopping. It was a really nice vacation. Definitely a different experience than the beach vacation, you know? Sometimes you go on vacation to relax and do nothing, and sometimes you want to be on the go and run around and be active the whole time. So yeah, that is it for today's video. That is it for the look, the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this escape on my New York vacation with me. I hope you guys got some distraction and some makeup tips perhaps. If you guys are new to my channel, I talk about nothing but luxury beauty. I do lots of reviews and tutorials, and I have a new online beauty consulting service where you can go ahead and book an appointment with me one-on-one and get my personal opinion on your skincare or makeup concerns. If you want to go ahead and make an appointment, there is a link below in the description box, and please make sure to like and subscribe. I think this is all I have for you guys for today, so thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!